Good evening, this is George. So here I am on my YouTube channel again, and what I'll be speaking about today is about Jeremy Corbyn, the leader of the British Labour Party. And the question is, will Corbyn survive as leader of the Labour Party? So a bit of background about Comrade Corbyn. He's been a Member of Parliament since 1983, and he's renowned, or as some would see it, notorious, as being the most extremely left-wing MP. So he's a hero to the far left. Anyway, he was elected by the mass membership of the Labour Party in September last year, the first ever Labour leader elected by a one-member, one-vote system. Previously, trades unions had some block votes to choose leaders. The votes of MPs counted for more than the ordinary members. And also, Labour supporters could sign up for £3, not formally be members of the Labour Party and still vote. Now, some people who thought that Corbyn would be a catastrophic leader for Labour, and indeed it has been cataclysmic under him, so there was said to be a Tories for Corbyn phenomenon, whereby people who wanted to ruin Labour's chances would register as supporters in order to vote for Corbyn, specifically because they thought it would wreck Labour for the next few years. And if that was a strategy, it seems to have worked out very well. So Corbyn, he was only been leader of the opposition until now, not even a year. And about 9 months after he became leader, there's been a plot against him. Labour's been doing very badly, well behind in the polls. As we're coming towards the midterm of Parliament, you'd expect the Conservatives, the sole governing party, to be dipping in the polls. When we look at the approval ratings of the leaders, Theresa May's got 54% in the polls, Jeremy Corbyn's only got 24%. Admittedly, the individual and the party they lead are not quite the same. The Conservatives are more popular than Labour, but not by such a large margin. Labour did badly in the Scottish parliamentary elections. Having such a far-left leader was thought to be a boost to Labour's fortunes in Scotland, but not so. The SNP has taken over much of that left-wing agenda. Now, admittedly, Corbyn is the leader of the Labour Party for the whole of the United Kingdom, but especially England. There is a leader of the Scottish Labour Party, and so, to a large extent, this abysmal showing in the Scottish parliamentary elections is her fault. Labour had won almost every single vote in Scotland from 1959 until 2007, but they've gone worse and worse. This is the first time for over a century that Labour has come third in Scotland. The Conservative and Unionist parties done better in Scotland than Labour, which is a truly atrocious result for Labour. This is the land of the Red Clyde. Labour used to take the lion's share of votes in Scotland. So what else? Then it all started with Hilary Benn resigning from the Shadow Cabinet, sacked before he had a chance to resign, and most of the Shadow Cabinet left. So 80% of Labour MPs have voted they have no confidence in their leader, which is a very damning indictment. There was that Brexit referendum. The vote was on the 23rd of June, so today's only the 19th of July, and it was very often working class Labour voters who voted Leave. The middle class Labour voters were very likely to vote Remain. So Labour seems to have distanced itself from its own base. There's a growing dissonance between this metropolitan elite and proletarian Labour supporters. He was unconvincing as a Europhile. Bear in mind, this is a man who till the early 90s was a Eurosceptic, wanted to take the United Kingdom out of the European Economic Community. The EEC is the predecessor organisation of the EU and was much less integrated than the EU now is. So it's bizarre. What an anomaly to want to withdraw from a fairly loose organisation, yet being adamant the UK should remain in a much more tightly bound organisation. Of course, it could be a change of heart, but he doesn't explain why this is. So Angela Eagle was going to stand against him. She was a Blairite, been in Parliament for 25 years, one of the first out lesbians in Parliament, had been a cabinet minister. But anyway, she's just announced today that she won't be standing. So she would not really appeal on the doorstep, wouldn't appeal to the average voter very much. She's not terrible, but she's not very presentable either. And Owen Smith, who's an MP from Wales, is going for the leadership as well. He's not been in Parliament so long, perhaps more media savvy, and he's marketing himself as Mr. Average, saying he's married with children. Some people think this has homophobic undertones. But Owen Smith has made some left-wing noises, said that he was against the liberation of Iraq in 2003. He wasn't in Parliament at the time. But he's a bit too much of a Labour aristocrat, perhaps, maybe too much of a media spiv for the tastes of some. So will Corbyn survive? Polls show that he probably will survive. The mass membership of Labour probably will vote him in again, but it's a bit too early to say. It could well be 2 months until that happens. If Owen Smith is elected leader of Labour, then Labour have a fairly good chance in the next few years, could even win the next general election. We're 4 years out from the Westminster election, so it's too early to call. On the other hand, what happens if Jeremy Corbyn is re-elected as Labour leader? Well, then Labour really is in trouble, because there are some Tory travails. The junior doctors' strike is rumbling on, the economy is stagnating, and austerity is continuing. But despite that, things don't seem to be terrible. Conservatives will probably round the corner again by 2020 and the next parliamentary election. But Corbyn's not connected with the public so far. And when 80% of his own colleagues say he is a bad leader, why should the public believe he's a decent leader? Corbynistas are often Trotskyites. They will probably try and deselect moderate MPs. Some moderate Labour MPs may well stand down, feeling they just can't stand it, and that it's a lost cause. Corbyn is a bit like the Aqua song, Back to the 80s, and that's when the far left in Labour, the entryists, were at their height, those who read Tribune. Militant tendency. Now, luckily for Labour, at the moment, the Liberal Democrats have a puny leader, Tim Farron, who packs no punch. The Lib Dems might get their act together. They may oust him. He may choose to step aside. If the Lib Dems get themselves a more credible leader, then Labour really have got trouble. Because the Lib Dems are at their rock bottom. There's only one way they can go. There's a certain level below which the Liberal Democrats will not fall. Anyway, so we live in fascinating times. Again, it's perhaps foolhardy to forecast this soon, but my hunch is that Corbyn will be narrowly re-elected.